Hi everyone. Right, it's Heather. I just thought I would show you guys a few techniques using the Whisper White craft ink. So this is a little bit different to our normal inks. Our normal inks are ones that when you stamp them they dry almost instantly, but this one is actually one that stays wet, so it's a little bit more like a Versamark ink. So I had a request from one of my team members to say, what do you do with this? What can you use it for? So I have worked out a few different techniques, and at our last team day, this is what we had a go at. So when you initially stamp the white ink, it has this sort of almost translucent effect to it. So I'll just show you on a piece of black. So you don't have to press it hard. It is one of the ones that's got a foam top to it rather than a material top. So just tap it around a few times, but don't really press it down. Just make sure that everything is covered on there. And then you can just pop that down. Give it the count to 5 seconds plus a little bit more because you want it to soak into the cardstock. And there's your white image. So as I say, it dries and it tends to be a little bit more translucent as opposed to being really bright white. So I'm going to use that for a technique in a minute, but I want it to be dry, so I'm going to just pop it to one side for the time being and show you something else. So the next technique, I've actually used it to heat emboss this image. So all you do is you ink up. So I've used this stamp from the Remarkable You set that has all these stamps in it. It's fabulous for doing this technique. So you just stamp with the white ink, pop over some white heat embossing powder, heat it up, emboss it. If you haven't done that before, let me know and I can explain how to do that. And the next thing you want is one of these, an aqua painter. So what we're going to do, in order to get some white ink on the top of this, I'm just going to squeeze this together like this, and it gives you a pool of white ink on there. You can then pick up the white ink with your aqua painter and paint all over your image. So just quickly do that. I'm kind of going to show you 3 different things with this. So some of it will need to dry, so what I'll be doing is doing some other bits while pieces are drying. So as you see, it just turns it all white, which is quite pretty, but it's not what I actually want at the moment. So grab a tissue and just get rid of the excess white ink that's on your aqua painter, and we can pop that white ink away for now. And the last thing I want to do is show you how to create. So I'm just going to leave this one and this one just to dry for the time being. So I'm going to quickly show you this card that we made. This technique is called bokeh technique, and it's just that sort of out of focus bubble technique that you get when you take a camera shot, and it's got that, it's quite popular on TV at the moment that you see people in front of this sort of technique. So to get that, you want to grab at least 3 different colours. So I use 3 because it seems to work nicely. I've got Dapper Denim, I've got Lemon Lime Twist, and I've got Berry Burst. And what you're going to do is, I tend to start off with the lightest colour. Not really sure which one's the lightest colour out of this lot, but I know it's not the Dapper Denim. And just put sort of splotches of this on to your card. Really doesn't have to be that accurate at all. So moving on to the Berry Burst. Did I just call it Berry Bliss or Berry Burst? I don't know. Anyway, it's Berry Burst. And moving on to there. looks good, doesn't it? Woohoo! And the last one is the dapper denim. So we're just going to colour in the gaps with the dapper denim. You actually need to colour the whole of your card to be able to get this technique to work really nicely. Just make sure all the gaps are gone. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. There we go. All right, so now we have a somewhat colourful looking card. I'll just close those away. 1, 2, 3. Those are all away. All right. So at this point, what I've done is I've actually punched 4 different circle holes. So I think we've got the 1/2 inch, the 3/4, the 1 inch, and then the 1 1/4 inch. So those are 4 of the Stampin' Up! Circle punches. Then you get back to your white ink and you take your dauber. So I have a white dauber here, and I'm just going to start creating circles of white. Just like that. And interlink your circles of white because they do look a lot better when they've got this sort of interlinked look to them. Just like that, and then that. You kind of get the idea. Again, as it dries, it does start to fade. You see how that one started to fade already. So you just keep doing that until you end up with this look. And I've just added lots of circles onto the outside of that, and it does gradually get away. So this one is quite patchy in the same way that this one was, but by the time you've added those circles on top, you don't really see the patches anymore. So that is that bokeh technique. Right, I'm going to pop the white ink away again and my little, oops, thing, if I can get hold of those. Okay, so now I reckon this one ought to be dry enough by now. So what I'm now going to do is use my watercolour pencils. What I do with my watercolour pencils is I keep them in one of these clear block containers along with 1 blender pen and 1 aqua painter, just because I like to be able to use those with the watercolour pencils. So for this, it's called Black Magic, this technique. So you start off with a white image, and then once that's dried, you can then start colouring in your image, and it ends up looking amazing. So I'm just going to quickly colour it all in. Oh, I hope that's not jogging the camera too much. Let's add, maybe a bit of this one. Now that one doesn't give enough contrast. Alright, let's go a bit of yellow. Yellow all over there. So this is kind of rough that I'm doing it just to show you. I don't want it to take forever. And I reckon I'm going to use a bit of orange in this bit. But you can see the effect that it's starting to bring already to it. It really is a pretty effect. Kind of makes it pop out of the page almost. And it's very exciting that Stampin' Up! Brought back pencils again, because I'd known about this technique but not really been wanting to use it, because I just like to keep to some Stampin' Up! Things rather than using other people's stuff as well. Nearly there. Excuse the fact it's a bit rough. talk among yourselves for a bit, that sort of thing. And one more. Okay, so at that point you can then just buff it with a tissue. And how beautiful is that? I just think that's so cool to be able to get that effect. So that's the black magic effect. Oh, let's put that one away. And then the last one is to bring this one back in. And I have to admit, I cannot remember the name of it. So we're just going to have to go with this technique until I've found the name of it, and I will put that onto the on with the post. So with this one, oh, again, you're going to need to squeeze your ink pads together to get a pool of ink up in the top of it. And then all you do is just paint over top of that. So I'm just going to add a little bit of green where I think the leaves would be. And just get rid of the excess onto the tissue. And then I've got Daffodil Delight. So I'm going to go with a bit of this up the top here. I do like the white ink. I think it looks so pretty when you use techniques like these with it. So we've got that. Just brush off the excess onto my tissue again, and a little bit of Cajun Craze. And we'll just add that going up into there. So you don't want to really saturate the cardstock, because if you get it too wet then it'll just start to buckle. But what I'm not using white or vanilla, I'm actually using a colour. So the idea behind this technique is that you can actually use a colour and make the image really stand out on it. So if you think that your cardstock's getting a bit too wet, just allow it to dry a bit and then go back to it. So just take that off there, pull it all down a bit. That's beautiful because you can sort of move it around. There. And doesn't that stand out really well on there? I'm just going to tap away some of that excess. Once it's all dry, then you actually just want to give it a bit of a wipe over just to get rid of the excess ink that's all over the white embossed area. But that's how that one's turned out. So the card that we used these two techniques on, so we've used the Black Magic and this one that I forget its name. So in that we've used so this whole thing is white embossed, and then we've coloured it in with the white ink like this to begin with, and then just added other colours over top. That one is then just stamped. I will say, when you do a stamp like that over top of white ink, your white ink has to be completely dry, because otherwise this will fade into the white ink. And then this is the Black Magic just done on the blue cardstock. So hopefully you have enjoyed seeing how we created those two cards. So remember the bokeh, and I'm just going to bring this back over just in case, and thank you very much for watching. Okay, bye.